power. It's the force we all seek, often without realizing it. From the earliest moments of human history, the desire to control our environment, to influence others, and ultimately to master our own fate, has driven civilization forward. Yet, what if everything we believe about power, what it is, where it comes from, how it operates, is a carefully constructed illusion, a mirage that keeps us entranced, compliant, and ultimately powerless? We tend to think of power as something tangible, something held by those at the top, kings, presidents, CEOs, generals. We imagine it as control over resources, people, or decisions. But beneath this surface lies a paradox. The very notion of power as external control may be a trap, a psychological paradox that binds us all. Consider the medieval concept of the divine right of kings. Power was presented as a sacred gift, ordained by God, unquestionable and absolute. This narrative did not merely justify rulers' authority. It embedded itself deep within the collective consciousness, shaping how entire populations understood their place in the social order. People believed they were subjects, obedient by divine mandate, and that any resistance was not just political rebellion, but a spiritual sin. This was one of the earliest, most potent illusions of power, one that gave rulers unquestioned dominance while convincing the ruled that their submission was natural, even righteous. Fast forward to today. The instruments of power have evolved, but the fundamental illusion remains. Modern propaganda, media manipulation, and social conditioning continue to manufacture consent, creating a shared reality that feels immutable. We believe we are making choices freely, yet often these choices are preordained by subtle nudges, cultural conditioning, and unseen agendas. Our sense of agency, our belief that we are in control of our lives, is meticulously engineered. Psychologically, this phenomenon is known as illusory control, the human tendency to overestimate our influence over events. It's comforting to think we have power, even if that power is limited or manipulated. This illusion provides a sense of security in an otherwise unpredictable world. But it is also a cage, built from invisible bars, keeping us obedient and distracted. Why does this matter? Because the moment we accept that power is always out there, beyond our reach, we surrender the possibility of real influence. We trade genuine autonomy for the comfort of illusion. This surrender is not passive. It is active compliance to narratives that serve the few at the expense of the many. And yet, beneath this collective trance lies a quieter truth. Real power, true sovereignty, may not be about domination or external control at all, but recognizing this requires unsettling the foundation of everything we believe about power. It forces us to confront that the most dangerous illusions are the ones we never suspect. The discomfort grows as we realize the strings of control are not attached to puppets, but to shadows of ourselves. We are not merely manipulated by external forces. We have internalized their narratives, unknowingly performing roles scripted long before our time. This realization does not merely provoke intellectual doubt, it awakens a creeping unease, a tension that calls for deeper inquiry. This section lays bare the starting point of a journey from naive certainty into the complex, often uncomfortable reality that power is far more intricate and insidious than it appears. Understanding this is the first step toward reclaiming agency. The illusion that binds us is not just external, it lives within, and only by seeing it clearly can we begin to break free. Power has long been imagined as something wielded like a weapon, force exerted over others, a prize seized in battles of dominance, a throne occupied by kings, generals, or tycoons. Yet beneath this surface lies a brutal and unsettling truth. The greatest power does not come from controlling others, but from mastering oneself. This is the psychological awakening that shatters illusions and demands a reckoning with the deeper, Forces that truly govern human behavior. The paradox is stark. Those who seem to hold the most power often appear anything but free. The heads of states, corporate giants, even cultural icons, many of them are prisoners of invisible chains. Fear, ego, social expectation, and the ceaseless hunger for validation bind them more tightly than any external force ever could. Their power is often a fragile facade, maintained through constant performance and anxiety. In truth, they are controlled by their own internal struggles, trapped by the very systems they seem to dominate. Philosophers and psychologists have long wrestled with this paradox. Friedrich Nietzsche, perhaps the most provocative thinker on power, redefined it not as domination, but as the will to power, an inner drive to overcome, to grow, to become more than one's present self. For Nietzsche, power is not about subjugating others, but about self-mastery, the courage to confront one's fears and weaknesses head-on and to transform oneself from within. This is a dangerous and lonely path, one that demands brutal honesty and relentless discipline. Modern psychology echoes this ancient wisdom. The battle for real power is fought in the trenches of the mind, where impulses, biases, and conditioned responses wage war. Emotional intelligence, self-regulation, and the ability to remain composed under pressure are the true currencies of influence. The more we control our reactions, the less others can control us. The image of power as a sword or crown fades, replaced by the quieter but more profound mastery of one's inner world. Yet, despite these insights, society continues to worship external control. Why? Because it's easier to see power as something outside of us, something to be gained, taken, or inherited, than to face the painful work of internal transformation. External power offers clear symbols: money, titles, armies, influence. Self-mastery is invisible, subtle, and demands sacrifice. It requires burning down the old illusions of identity, pride, and entitlement. This tension is embodied in mythic figures that have haunted human consciousness for millennia. Take Prometheus, the titan who stole fire from the gods, not to conquer others, but to bring light and power to humanity itself. His gift symbolizes the spark of inner enlightenment, the courage to defy the established order and awaken a deeper power within. Or the Buddha, who renounced worldly power and riches to seek liberation through self-awareness, teaching that true power arises from detachment and profound self-knowledge. Both figures illustrate a transformative journey, the crossing of a burning bridge from external illusion to internal truth. This is not a path for the faint-hearted. It demands leaving behind the comfort of familiar identities and surrendering the hollow certainties of external control. But on the other side lies a power far more enduring and real, the sovereignty of the self. The emotional landscape of this realization shifts from confusion and doubt to a tentative hope. It is a painful awakening, but it also holds promise, the possibility of reclaiming agency in a world that seems designed to strip it away. When power is understood as self-mastery, the rules change. We are no longer passive subjects to external forces, but active creators of our own destiny. This brutal realization is the pivot point of the journey, a moment when viewers must confront their own assumptions and fears. It dismantles the seductive but dangerous myth that power is about control over others and replaces it with a deeper, more challenging truth. The journey inward is irreversible. It burns away illusions, but it also frees. In embracing this truth, the path forward begins to take shape, not as a quest for dominance, but as a commitment to self-overcoming. This is where true power begins, not with the conquest of external worlds, but with the mastery of the inner self. And only by crossing this burning bridge can we hope to transcend the chains that bind us, stepping into a new reality where power is not taken, it is claimed from within. Power rarely announces itself openly. It doesn't always come wielding swords or wearing crowns. Instead, it often hides in plain sight, silent, invisible, yet utterly dominant. The most dangerous systems of control are not those that chain us physically, but those that infiltrate our minds, shaping how we think, what we desire, and even who we believe ourselves to be. To understand this, we must peer beneath the surface of everyday life, beyond obvious authority figures and institutions. The true anatomy of control lies in the psychological and sociological machinery that manufactures consent and obedience on a massive scale. It is a system so subtle, so pervasive, that most remain blind to its presence, mistaking their conditioned beliefs and desires for genuine freedom. Historically, the manipulation of the masses has roots as old as civilization itself. Ancient rituals, public spectacles, and religious ceremonies functioned as tools to unify populations under shared narratives, often crafted by those in power. These rituals didn't merely entertain, they embedded symbols, values, and fears deep into the collective psyche, aligning individual identities with the agendas of rulers and priestly classes. The spectacle became a form of psychological binding, a social contract written in myth and fear. Fast forward to modernity, and the tools have evolved, but the fundamental pattern remains. Today, social media algorithms, 24-hour news cycles, targeted advertising, and mass entertainment operate as a sprawling, interconnected web designed to capture attention and shape perception. Every click, like, and share feeds a system that learns our fears, amplifies our anxieties, and exploits our tribal instincts. The invisible hand of data-driven influence steers millions simultaneously, constructing realities tailored to keep us distracted, divided, and compliant. This manufactured consent, the silent agreement to the status quo, is the cornerstone of contemporary power. It is not enforced by overt coercion, but by a pervasive culture of normalized control, where dissent is framed as irrational or dangerous. We are conditioned to accept limited choices and predefined roles, believing ourselves to be autonomous, while the strings tug relentlessly beneath the surface. At the heart of this system lies a paradox. How can something invisible wield such absolute control? The answer is found in the architecture of the mind itself, and how social structures exploit it. The philosopher Jeremy Bentham imagined the panopticon, a circular prison where inmates never know if they are being watched, but internalize surveillance as constant. This idea reveals a terrifying dynamic, the internalization of control that makes external enforcement almost unnecessary. We police ourselves because we have absorbed the gaze of power into our very consciousness. George Orwell's dystopian vision in 1984 expanded on this theme. A world where truth is mutable, language is weaponized, and the past is rewritten to maintain dominance. While fictional, Orwell's insight resonates deeply with our modern condition. The battle for reality is a battle for power itself, fought in minds sculpted by propaganda, misinformation, and carefully crafted narratives. Cultural symbolism abounds with this tension. The maze, an ancient metaphor, captures the experience of navigating a world full of illusions and dead ends, an endless labyrinth where every mirror reflects a fractured, distorted self. This is the psychological terrain of systemic control, a fragmented identity caught in an endless reflection of fears and desires manufactured from outside. The self becomes a prism, splitting reality into shards that serve the agendas of power. This awareness is disquieting because it challenges the very foundation of our autonomy. To realize that much of what we believe, desire, or fear may be implanted by systems designed to control is a profound psychological shock. It forces a re-evaluation of who we are and what freedom truly means. Yet this tension carries urgency. Understanding the anatomy of control is not a path to despair, but the first step towards psychological liberation. Recognizing the invisible forces that dominate our minds equips us to resist, to reclaim fragments of sovereignty from the maze. This section deepens the mystery of power's true nature, revealing it not as a simple force but as a complex web of influence and internalized surveillance. It challenges viewers to confront uncomfortable truths about their own perceptions, setting the stage for a crucial psychological breakthrough ahead, one where power is no longer something done to us, but something we can begin to unravel from. Within the silent weapon, emotional detachment as real power, true power, is rarely loud. It does not announce itself with thunderous proclamations or aggressive displays. Instead, it moves in shadows, in silence, in the spaces where emotions are controlled and unreadable. This is the paradox at the heart of genuine influence. The less you reveal your emotional state, the more control you wield over the situation, and often over the people around you. For centuries, the great strategists and philosophers understood this truth intuitively. Niccolò Machiavelli, in his seminal work The Prince, emphasized the power of strategic silence and composure. He warned that overt displays of emotion could reveal weaknesses and invite exploitation. To rule effectively, a leader needed to master the art of emotional detachment, remaining inscrutable, calm, and unpredictable. It was not cruelty or domination that secured power, but the ability to conceal the turmoil beneath a composed exterior. Carl Jung's psychological insights deepen this understanding with his concept of the shadow self. This shadow represents the unconscious, the hidden parts of ourselves that we reject or deny. True power, Jung argued, comes from acknowledging and integrating this shadow, becoming aware of the emotional undercurrents that drive behavior while resisting the impulse to act impulsively on them. This internal mastery translates into a calm exterior, a controlled presence that is both magnetic and impenetrable. Modern psychology confirms what history and philosophy have long suggested. Emotional unreadability commands respect. Studies in social dynamics reveal that people who display excessive emotional reactivity often lose influence because their behavior becomes predictable, manipulable, or off-putting. In contrast, those who maintain composure, especially in high-pressure or confrontational situations, are perceived as stronger, more competent, and trustworthy. This emotional armor creates a psychological distance that prevents others from gaining leverage, turning emotional detachment into a silent but formidable weapon. Historical figures embody this principle vividly. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic Roman emperor, maintained a resolute calm in the face of war, plague, and political chaos. His meditations are a testament to the power of rational control over emotional upheaval. His inscrutable gaze and steady hand inspired loyalty and commanded authority without the need for harsh displays of force. Similarly, the Buddha's serene detachment is legendary. His mastery over desire, anger, and fear enabled him to transcend the reactive patterns that trap most people. This inner stillness was not apathy, but a profound engagement with the present moment, free from the turmoil of emotional reactivity. His example shows that true power arises not from controlling others, but from mastery over oneself, the ability to remain unshaken amid the storm. This does not mean suppressing emotions or becoming cold and disconnected. Rather, it is about developing resilience, the capacity to observe emotions without being consumed by them. Like a statue half buried in ice, impervious and still amidst chaos, this emotional detachment provides a sanctuary of clarity and strength. It is a form of invisibility, a power that cannot be grasped or undermined because it refuses to be seen or manipulated. The emotional tone here shifts from anxiety or reactive fear toward a cold, clear-headed clarity. This clarity is liberating. It reveals a secret weapon available to anyone willing to cultivate it. Emotional detachment becomes a shield against manipulation, propaganda, and coercion. When you no longer wear your emotions on your sleeve, you deny others the raw material they need to control or unsettle you. This silent weapon of composure builds on the earlier realization that real power begins with self-mastery. It deepens the journey inward, reminding us that power is not found in domination or loud assertion, but in the calm, invisible strength beneath the surface. In a world obsessed with noise and spectacle, emotional detachment stands as a quiet rebellion, an assertion of sovereignty over one's inner landscape. By embracing this principle, Viewers can begin to reclaim power not by battling external forces but by mastering their internal ones. They learn to move through chaos with stillness, to wield silence as a form of influence, and to embody a presence so composed it unsettles the storm around them. This section closes a crucial chapter in our exploration, revealing that the ultimate form of power is not control over others, but control over one's own emotional realm. It challenges viewers to reconsider what it means to be strong, inviting them into the paradox that vulnerability disguised as silence can become the most formidable armor of all. What if the chains that bind us are not forged from iron, but from invisible patterns etched into our minds? For most of our lives, we move through a world shaped by forces we barely recognize: automatic reactions, conditioned fears, deeply ingrained beliefs that feel like truths but are often illusions crafted by society, culture, and our own psychology. To break free from this invisible prison, something remarkable must happen: awareness. Awareness is not just knowing that you are trapped. It is the profound recognition of how you are trapped. It is the moment when the fog lifts and you see the wires behind the puppetry. This turning point, the moment of conscious clarity, can disrupt the automatic cycles of control and obedience. It interrupts the reflexive dance with power and domination, opening a crack in the spell that holds us captive. The human mind is a labyrinth of cognitive biases and emotional triggers. These are shortcuts and vulnerabilities hardwired by evolution, but exploited by the very systems designed to control us. Confirmation bias nudges us to see only what fits our worldview, while emotional hijacking pulls us into knee-jerk reactions before reason can intervene. Social influence wraps these vulnerabilities in layers of conformity, making dissent seem dangerous or unthinkable. Recognizing these mechanisms is the first act of rebellion, a quiet internal revolution that begins the dismantling of false autonomy. Mindfulness philosophy offers a pathway to this awakening. Rooted in ancient traditions yet increasingly validated by modern science, mindfulness teaches us to observe our thoughts and feelings without becoming them. It invites a pause, a space, where automatic reactions can be questioned instead of acted upon. This moment of observation is a powerful rupture in the cycle of control. Suddenly, the scripted responses lose their grip. We become less puppets and more players in our own narrative. Epistemology, the study of knowledge itself, adds another layer to this insight. It challenges us to question not only what we know, but how we come to know it. If much of our knowledge is filtered through propaganda, cultural myths, or emotional manipulation, then awakening demands skepticism and humility. Knowing the game is played with illusions compels us to look behind the curtain, dismantling assumptions that have long kept us compliant. History offers vivid examples of those who have broken this spell: rebels, mystics, and dissidents who pierced the veil of deception to reclaim their power. Consider figures like Galileo, whose refusal to accept established dogma reshaped our understanding of the universe. Or the mystics who transcended social conditioning by dissolving the ego's grip, revealing a freedom beyond societal control. These individuals embody the transformative power of awareness, showing that freedom is not merely external, but a profound internal shift. The emotional journey here moves from tension, born of recognizing how deeply we have been controlled, to empowerment. With awareness comes choice, the realization that your mind is not a passive container, but an active battlefield, transforms fear into courage. Suddenly, the rules of the game are not fixed, but can be challenged and rewritten. Imagine stepping through a shattered mirror, each fragment representing a shattered illusion, a broken belief that once limited your perception. Beyond that fractured reflection lies a new reality, raw and uncertain, but authentic and free. This is the path of awakening, a journey through discomfort into clarity, from confusion to deliberate action. Breaking the spell is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process. It demands vigilance, curiosity, and the courage to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world we inhabit. But it also offers a glimpse of something extraordinary, the possibility of genuine autonomy in a world designed to obscure it. As we move beyond the analysis of control and manipulation, this awakening sets the stage for the final transformative insight, the recognition that freedom is not granted by external circumstances, but reclaimed within the depths of consciousness itself. Awareness does not just illuminate the cage, it opens the door. And once that door is open, the true journey toward liberation can begin. At first glance, power seems inseparable from control. The stronger grip you have, the more you dominate. The louder your voice, the more authority you command. We are taught to resist, to fight, to conquer, to assert. Yet, beneath this surface lies a profound paradox, one that has confounded thinkers and mystics for millennia. True power, it turns out, often arises not from resistance, but from surrender. This is not surrender in the sense of defeat or submission, but a radical letting go of the ego's desperate need to dominate. It is the release of the illusion that power must be grasped tightly, fought for endlessly, or imposed by force. Instead, power flows like water, yielding to obstacles, adapting, moving through rather than against. This paradox unsettles us because it overturns the foundational beliefs ingrained by culture, history, and personal ambition. Lao Tzu, the ancient Chinese philosopher, captured this insight in the Tao Te Ching. The softest thing in the world overcomes the hardest thing in the world. Water, though gentle and yielding, erodes rock, carves canyons, and shapes the landscape with effortless persistence. In power, as in nature, yielding is strength, surrender is mastery. Modern psychology and neuroscience echo this ancient wisdom through the concept of flow states. These are moments when individuals cease to resist the present, dissolving ego boundaries and entering a state of effortless action and deep focus. Athletes, artists, and leaders who access flow are not controlling every detail aggressively. Instead, they surrender to the process, trusting a deeper intelligence to guide them. This surrender unlocks creativity, resilience, and influence in ways forceful control never can. Throughout history, figures who embodied this paradox transformed the course of events precisely because they did not cling rigidly to power. Consider Nelson Mandela, whose power lay not in unyielding resistance, but in the courageous surrender to reconciliation and forgiveness. His ability to yield to a vision larger than his personal grievances allowed him to reshape a nation. Similarly, mystics and spiritual leaders throughout time, such as the Buddha and Rumi, found power not in controlling others but in mastering the self through surrender. Their teachings reveal that yielding to the deeper currents of reality dissolves conflict and reveals an inner sovereignty untouched by external chaos. This surrender does not mean passivity or weakness. Rather, it is a dynamic, active engagement with life's complexities. It is the strength to face uncertainty without grasping for false security, the courage to embrace vulnerability as a source of power. It is the wisdom to know when to push and when to let go, when to speak and when to remain silent. The emotional journey here moves beyond empowerment to transcendence. It invites a redefinition of power that transcends the binary opposites of control and submission, dominance and obedience. Power becomes a dance, a delicate balance between holding firm and yielding fluidly. This balance cultivates freedom, not as a possession but as a living experience, an ongoing flow. In this light, the river becomes the ultimate symbol. It does not fight the stones and branches in its path. It flows around them, over them, shaping its course with grace and persistence. The river's power lies in its surrender to movement, its embrace of change, and its refusal to resist the inevitable. By embracing this paradox, we synthesize all the insights explored before: the illusion of external control, the mastery of self, the psychological mechanisms of influence, and the silent strength of emotional detachment. Surrender does not negate these truths, but integrates them into a holistic understanding of power, one that is subtle, elusive, and deeply liberating. This revelation shatters conventional narratives and frees us from the trap of endless struggle. It challenges us to reconsider what it means to be powerful, shifting the quest from domination to harmony, from resistance to acceptance, from control to flow. As the journey concludes, the invitation is clear: to stop fighting against the current of life, to relinquish the ego's iron grip, and to discover the profound power that arises when we surrender, not as victims, but as masters of a deeper truth. This is the ultimate freedom, to wield power not by force, but by flowing effortlessly through the obstacles that once seemed insurmountable. The story of power, as we have seen, is not about crowns or titles, nor about dominating others or amassing wealth. It is a far deeper, more intimate journey, one that starts not in the outside world, but within the silent chambers of your own mind. The awakening of true power begins with a simple yet radical act: turning your gaze inward and refusing to surrender your sovereignty to invisible forces. This is the moment when you no longer accept the narratives fed to you, those carefully constructed illusions designed to distract, divide, and control. You start questioning what you have been told about strength, success, and freedom. The stories that once shaped your beliefs become riddles to unravel, not commandments to obey. You realize that power does not reside in external validation or social approval, but in the mastery of your own thoughts, emotions, and choices. To awaken this power within is to embrace a conscious rebellion, a refusal to be a passive player in a system built on manipulation and submission. It is a call to cultivate clarity where confusion reigned, to find calm amid chaos, and to hold firm to your inner compass, even when the world pressures you to conform. This rebellion is not noisy or violent. It is quiet, deliberate, and fiercely personal. Ask yourself, what fears have I accepted as truths? Which desires are truly mine, and which have been implanted by others? How often do I surrender my peace for the illusion of control? These questions are not mere curiosities, but gateways. Through them, you begin to dismantle the walls that cage your potential. The dawn breaking over a dark cityscape is no accident. It symbolizes the birth of new possibilities after a long night of blindness. Your journey toward real power is just beginning, and it requires patience, courage, and unwavering self-awareness. The road ahead will challenge you, but it will also illuminate the profound freedom that comes from reclaiming your inner authority. In this awakening lies your most potent weapon, the ability to influence not by force, but through presence. Not by domination, but through unshakable composure. Not by fear, but by the clarity of your own knowing. This power is yours, not granted, but discovered. So rise, not as a conqueror of others, but as the master of yourself. The systems of control may loom large, but they are shadows cast by your own acceptance. To challenge them with clarity and calm strength is to step into a new reality, one where your power is unbreakable because it is born within. Your journey begins now,